Welcome, my friends, to another YouTube version of the BJJ Brick Podcast. I hope you enjoy the show, and if you do, please subscribe to the channel. So here we go.
Thank you for listening to the BJJ Brick Podcast. We'll be bringing you Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and good times. We hope to flatten your Jiu-Jitsu learning curve, help you get the most out of your grappling ability, and meet your goals both on and off the mat.
Welcome back, my friends, to episode 159 of the BJJ Brick Podcast. I'm Gary, and I'm here with Byron as always. How you doing today, Byron?
I'm doing great, Gary. I'm excited today. We have one of our topic episodes. We're going to be talking about kind of dirty tricks people do, and if you're doing them, maybe you should or shouldn't do that, depending on kind of who you are and who you're rolling with, and just kind of talking about the dirty side of jiu-jitsu.
Well, I didn't think about it, but we should have got our training partner, Dirty Harry, to be honest. With a name like that, he would have fit in perfect.
Yeah, he. It seems like with Dirty Harry, if most people don't know him that listen to the show, but he's one of our training partners. He's in his, how old is he? In his 60s, 50s?
He's probably in his 60s.
Early 60s. And he's just a fun guy to be around. But usually I'll pull like a side control on him, and he'll drop an elbow in my ribs for the efforts.
And on purpose.
Yes. So.
But you know why I'm really excited today, Byron?
Why is that, Gary?
Because we have a mat tail for the day.
Oh,
so I'm
man.
excited we got a mat tail. That means none of my audiobooks this week.
That's true. You're out of it, man. So
thank you for sending the mat tail.
Yeah, we appreciate that, and we'll get to that later on in the show after the topic is out of the way. This episode was suggested to us by a listener named Brian. He kind of wanted to know, he sent us an email, he kind of wanted to know what's wrong, what's kind of a gray area, grabbing fingers, grinding knuckles, knee on the belly when you're a lot bigger than that person. What's flat out wrong, what's okay, and what's in that gray area by our standards. Obviously, everyone else has their own personal standards, so if something's wrong for you, it's wrong for you. It doesn't really matter. But he wants us to discuss this, and Brian, we're happy to do that today.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people are going to, have their own opinions. Somebody might think it's, not appropriate, and some person will be, hey, there's nothing wrong with this. So it's going to be each your own. Some of the things, that you might think is okay, somebody else might not like, or vice versa. So I don't think there's no right or wrong, but there are going to be some, like, pulling a gun in the middle of a jiu-jitsu match, hitting somebody with a hammer. Those ones I think everybody will agree with are not very good. Yeah,
there are clearly wrongs. I mean, not that. I guess if it's totally wrong, punching a guy in while you're training for just jiu-jitsu, or thumbing an orifice, or poking someone in the eye. There's not that gray area. I think we'll probably just avoid those more or less, and we'll stick to ones that maybe have some question. I don't know where we're going to go with this, Gary. We each have thought about this a little bit, and we're kind of going to throw stuff at each other and see where we go.
Well, if I'm in this, it's going to go way out of bounds. So just a little forewarning.
Oh, it has to be a little referee action.
Speaking of forewarning, you never want to miss an episode. So check out our link on the show notes to get on our email list. Just provide us with your email, and each and every week we'll provide you with a link to the show. That way you'll never miss an episode, and you'll always be walking around with a smile on your face.
Absolutely. If you take that email that you have in your box there, and there's a link for an audiobook. It goes to support the show, and it goes to support you during your first year of training. It's called Your First Year BJJ. You've got me talking to you for about 2.5 hours about all the things you could expect during your first year of training, and really help you through those hurdles. Really, after that first year, if you've incorporated this into your life and you enjoy it, which are two big things to do, you're probably set. A lot of people from there go from that year 1, year 2 is not that bad, and then just this part of something that you do. As long as you don't have any major life-changing events, a lot of times you're good to go from there. You get to enjoy the process of learning jiu-jitsu with a great team, hopefully. So in the audiobook, the goal is to help you get over that first year, get through it successfully. It's $11.99. The proceeds go to help the show.
Hey, Byron, you know what would go along good with the audiobook, like your first year trying to figure out what's wrong, what's right, would be our episode today about what's inappropriate and what's not. So definitely listen to this show too. It'll help you through your first year.
There we go.
Hey, I'd also like to give a big shout out to our Patreon supporters, Rob, Sean, Greggy, Alexander, And we have a new one, Donald T. Trump, Donald Trump. So thank you guys. We appreciate the support.
Yep. Donald has got himself in at the lowest level, which is kind of weird. We got a new thing here, Gary. It used to be you want to support the show per episode, like $2 or $3. It's fantastic, but actually I made a new level, 50 cents. If you think this show is worth 50 cents and you'd like to support us, you can go to there's a video, and I don't talk about on the video that's on there now. I need to make a new video, but I don't talk about it, the 50 cent edition, but you go to the link to Patreon, and it explains it. And after you've supported for 15 episodes, so figure that math out, Gary. 15 episodes or 50 cents, about $7.50.
Yeah, I'm not very good at that, Lauren, but we'll just call it $7.50.
Okay. I'll get on there and get your address and mail you out the gi patch to show your support. We can't do it right away because we have people sign up and then they could drop, and then I end up spending a bunch of money for gi patches that go everywhere. But once you've built up enough episodes of support, 15 is what we're going to put it at, I'll mail you out a gi patch, and it goes pretty much anywhere in the world at that. So that's nice to be able to mail out those gi patches internationally, and it's a way that for 50 cents an episode you get sponsor the show and help us keep what we're doing. So just check it out, consider it, and how it works. And because now I know more about Patreon, is it doesn't bill your credit card. Let's say there's 4 Mondays in a month. It doesn't bill your credit card 4 times for 50 cents. It waits till the end of the month, or I think you can set it for any date, and then it bills you for the $2. Or if there's 5 episodes, it'd be $2.50. Or you can make it set a max at 4 episodes a month if you want to keep it steady. So you'll have a $2 credit card charge from Patreon. That's basically it. Super easy, and it's been a way that a few listeners have been able to support us, and we're looking forward to getting a few more and sending out some more gi patches, Gary.
Yeah, and like Byron said, those gi patches, we'll send them out internationally, which is something we didn't do with our review gi patches earlier in the thing. And I see on this note, our last Patreon supporter, Donald Trump, he asked us not to send it outside of the borders because he wants to put up a wall, but we will send, anywhere internationally. So don't worry about that. No matter where you live, you can get a gi patch.
So check out the new update to Patreon. If you've thought about supporting us but couldn't afford the higher levels, we're now happy to have you at the 50 cent level per episode. So thanks, guys. Something else we're doing as we wrap up this year is we're looking for the BJJ Break Coach of the Year, somebody to recognize in the BJJ community who's doing an outstanding job coaching and being just a good person on and off the mats. If your coach is somebody that you think would be a good candidate, you need to do a couple things. Type up a little essay, a little paper explaining to us why your coach is such a great person. Put some details in there and tell us a little story about who your coach is and what makes them so great. And then email that to bjjbrick@gmail.com, and we'll collect all these together, and then we're going to assemble a little panel of judges and have them read and vote for who they think the coach of the year should be. So it could be anybody. It could be a coach of a gym that has like 10 people. It doesn't need to be a world champion coach here. Somebody who's a great person who is doing a lot for the sport or for the people at the gym, going above and beyond. We're looking to recognize somebody like that. And it would be a great way that they ultimately could say that they are the BJJ Break Podcast Coach of the Year. I think it would be a somewhat of a positive advertising thing. Maybe if someone's
it'd be a great honor because it'll be the first one ever. And think 10 years down the road, just think of the names we'll have. We'll probably have 10 of them, hopefully.
Yet again with your math skills, I am impressed.
Yeah, see, I did good on that one. I just had trouble with the 50 cents times 7 or whatever, or 12. But hey, this is, it's kind of cool. I can't wait to, read all the entries and pick the Coach of the Year. But definitely, get this out to us. We don't care about penmanship. We don't care about punctuation. Just let us know about how great your coach is. Let us know who he is. Let us know what he did for you or your team. It doesn't necessarily even have to be for you. What he did for somebody at your school, what he did for somebody at the team, somebody for the community. And I know there's a lot of incredible coaches out there that like that. And we'd love to honor these people. So definitely get it out to us. Send it to us, bjjbrick@gmail.com.
There we go. Gary, I am happy to bring a quote of the week this week. The quote is from Marilyn Vos Savant. And Marilyn says, to acquire knowledge, one must study. To acquire wisdom, one must observe. And I think in observe versus study, we're also talking about doing and just getting more involved.
Participate.
Yeah. So to acquire knowledge, you can study. You could get kind of sucked into the trap of looking online or listen to podcasts or watching crazy amount of YouTube videos about jiu-jitsu. But really, to acquire that wisdom, the deeper understanding, you got to do it. You got to get on the mat. You got to, get that experience. And it's a big difference overall. We've all met the people who know a ton of moves, but really can't do very many of them. And that's not what we're advising here. It's better just to know a handful of moves and be able to actually pull those off on people of your skill level and a few that are a little higher than you. That's really cool to be able to do that. And there's a big difference between having knowledge of something and being really wise about something and having a deeper understanding. And that comes from actually practicing it.
Yeah, I remember before I first started, I'd watch UFC all the time. I'd practice guillotine chokes on my dog and on my wife, and I'd watch the videos, and I really thought I knew. I really did. Along with my athleticism, I thought I would do okay. I tell you, I went out there day one, and none of it worked on a resisting partner, and I just couldn't understand why, after all these videos I've watched and all these UFC matches I watched, that none of it worked. So, you definitely do have to, study. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. But you have to get on the mat. You have to do it. I can watch so many times Tim Sled doing the leg drag, but without a resisting opponent and working my way up, slowly progressing from a little bit of resistance to full resistance, I'm never going to hit that in a match. I'm never going to hit it 1 count. So that's the cool thing about jiu-jitsu. We actually do it. We actually do 100% combat, really just about each and every practice. That these moves we learn, they actually work because we're doing it on a resisting opponent who probably learned the same move and is still getting caught with it. So that's what I think is so great about jiu-jitsu. There's no lying on the mat. And when I say lying on the mat, I don't mean lying down on the mat. You can't tell fibs on the mat. You're going to know how good you are basically just by going against your training partners. It's whatever. Something's going to work or something's not going to work. But you're just going to learn so much getting out there and doing it. So definitely make sure you participate, you observe to acquire that wisdom.
Yes, Gary. Very good. Very spoken like a very wise person.
I think that's another age joke, but I'll let that one slide.
I appreciate you letting a few of my jokes go by.
Yep. Hey, with time for the article of the week. This one is from learningbjj.com. And it's from June 8th, 2016. And we've had her on the show before. We used her articles before, but it's Kaylee Swigard. And I hope I said your name right there, Kaylee. But this week's article is 9 things I learned in my first year of jiu-jitsu. And I know there's a lot more than 9 things you learned, which I think, but we're not just talking about moves. So, and I know each and every one of us has went through that path of your first year, wondering what's going to go on and what you're going to learn and how everything's going to play out. But, this is just one person's list of 9 different things. And I kind of chuckled at the first one, but for some reason, BJJ is a beacon for nerds. And I admit I'm a nerd, so no wonder I'm into this sport.
Gary,
but, yes.
This might surprise you, but I'm actually pretty cool.
You? You?
Oh, man, I can't fool you that many times.
Yeah. Yep. But, I actually have noticed this too. I do think, there's some nerdier people in jiu-jitsu, and to be honest, I'm proud to be a nerd. So, one of my favorite movies is Revenge of the Nerds. But, it is true. I do see it myself a lot of times. And, she just talks about just the people she's met. There are some nerds. She talks about now her Facebook is, filled with fight breakdowns, pictures of settlers of Catan Marathon, whatever that is, socio-political rants, video game reviews, anime stuff, and, aggressive memes, and cats. There's always got to be cats.
Yeah, I do get a lot of cat memes.
Yep. Actually, I've got none, but hopefully I'll get some. So if you're listening to me, cat memes is what I request.
Oh, Gary, you don't want that. It just destroys your Facebook page there.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But the next thing that she talked about, and we don't have to cover everything because you should go check out what she wrote. Kaylee is a good-looking young woman, and she's kind of had a little bit of nervousness about getting on the mats with all these guys, and sure enough, somebody would poke her on the mats and kind of just, tease her a little bit, and then he would go and message her on Facebook and say stuff like, "Hey, beautiful, I like it when you choke me," and she really...
that's creepy.
Yeah, that is creepy. This is kind of a weird situation to be in that most jiu-jitsu people don't experience because much more men than women are here, and she found that she's somebody who stands up for herself, and she gives some great advice. If this is happening to you, which this is never going to happen to me because I'm not that good looking anyway, but you could talk to your coach, you could talk to the instructor, professor, you can go up the chain a little bit, you can go over, find somebody and say, "Hey, this isn't why I'm here. I like this behavior to stop," and get them to kind of help you with it. Or you could just address the person directly and like, "Hey man, I'm not interested. Please don't send those type of messages my way." And just kind of the idea that her coaches and stuff would help stand up for her and make this a more female-friendly gym. I don't think that all gyms have that, but I think that it's something that's coming in the future. More and more gyms are becoming more female-friendly, which is great because everybody could benefit from jiu-jitsu, and definitely appreciate it when the ladies get on the mat and do some training. And so classes that are all female could be a good way to help avoid this sort of thing, but a lot of times that's not even an option. Just having one woman there to train, she's going to have to train with the guys. And just telling your coach, he might help you pair up with people to avoid that person. And that might be as simple as that. So just let somebody know that's got a little bit of authority. And if it's a person that is the person of authority, you can go above them, or you can go over to the side a little bit and talk to one of the purple belts or blue belts and it's like, "Hey man, coach is kind of hitting on me a bit much, and I'm thinking about either getting out of here or doing something different," and kind of get their advice because they probably know that person very well. So
yeah, definitely don't be that person. Number 6, you can't force anyone to train. And this one, I think we've all ran into that. I know I've ran into it so many times. I've even got to the point where I told myself I was going to quit telling people about jiu-jitsu. But, that'll never happen. I'll always get people, right? But, I've brought so many people, to train jiu-jitsu, and like Kaylee says, you won't see many of them after a month. And boy, most of my people that I brought haven't lasted a month, so a month is good. But jiu-jitsu is not for everybody. The way I think of it, it's the most awesome sport I've ever trained. But not everybody feels the same way, and we can't force people to do it. So you're going to try to get your friends involved, and some people just don't like it. It's going to happen. Don't take that as they don't like you. It's just it's not going to happen. Not everybody's just going to fall in love with it like we have.
Yeah, and there's times where you won't be in love with it, but if you kind of like it, like there's always that, I love you or I like you type of thing. But if you just kind of tolerate it for a while, you'll fall back into it, I think, and over the long run, it will be just part of your journey. Going down here the list a little bit. Number 8, your Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu experience is what you make of it. She says her goals are up to her. That's not a thing you hear a lot of new people say, especially in the first year. Your progress is up to me. My focus and my aggression are up to me. Like, what you want to make of this is really up to you. If you could train every day and you want to come in and just kind of pill around and do nothing, or you want to train 2 days a week as hard as you can and make the most of it, it's really your decision. And if you want to be coachable, be a person that can actually take advice and listen and then make a change from that, that's a decision. That's not anything that, either you're short or you're tall. Some people, you give advice to them and they don't listen to it at all. Maybe it is bad advice. I'm giving sometimes, but maybe they should just try it out and put some time towards that advice. And really, your experience of what you make of it, the interactions you have are what you make of it, and your own development is ultimately your responsibility.
And I like how she finishes that up. She talks about how she signed up at a judo academy because they specialize in what she's worst at, which I assume is takedowns. And she's saying, I'm taking responsibility for areas of weakness. and that's her job. It's not anybody else. The coach can tell her, hey, you're not that great there, but ultimately it is up to her. And Kaylee said, hey, I want to work on my takedowns and my throws. I'm going to go sign up at a judo academy. And I just think that's awesome.
Yep.
Well, that's an awesome article. Definitely check out our show notes. Like I said, we've had articles from Kaylee before. Check out her blog. There's a lot of good stuff there. On this article here, right at the very end, she says, if you go to her comments, hey, tell her what you've learned. So check it out. Awesome article. And we appreciate Kaylee for contributing again to the show.
Yeah, I like the perspective that, we could say, like in the audiobook I have, here's what I recommend you try to learn or whatever, but this is from the other perspective. This is the person who's just got done with the year. Here's what I've learned. And it wasn't about arm bars and guillotines. It was like, what I learned about myself, what I learned about jiu-jitsu, what I learned about the people I train with, and they're now a family, and all these things that she's learned during this year that nobody but somebody who just did that year could really tell you. So she's coming from a great place to write something like this. I'm glad she did, and I'm happy to share parts of it with you guys. There'll be a link in the show notes. I urge everybody to go there to read it. Comment on her page there if you have something to say, especially if you're right around that year mark. So that'd be cool. All right, Gary, with the article wrapped up, it's time to get dirty, my friend.
That scares me. I mean, last week it was about rashes. This week it's about getting dirty.
This topic was suggested by a listener, and just kind of wanted to know some things that were like in the gray area, how we feel about them. Some things are clearly black and white. This is fine. It's okay to do a choke on somebody. That's what you signed up for. Is it okay to kind of slam somebody kind of harder to take down? Is that a gray area? And then Gary, of course, pulling out a knife while we're grappling. Kind of not okay, Gary. There's not a lot of gray in that. Don't do that anymore. Don't pull a knife on anybody, Gary.
I promise I won't.
All right, Gary. I think the easiest way to do this would be to kind of break down a couple of different maybe techniques or maybe things that happen, and we'll kind of say, and we may differ on opinion, what's bad, what's rude, what's not cool, what's acceptable, and what's good. I mean, we might cover, that's kind of a different scale of things and kind of helping us classify some of these things we're going to cover. What do you think about that?
What's crazy is as time changes, I think attitudes change there too. Like if we would have done this 10 years ago, I mean, you always heard about how leg locks were not cool. Leg locks, were they acceptable or not? And today, everybody and their brother's doing leg locks from white belt on up and heel hooks. So, I just think, too, keep that in mind, just because stuff can change with how, jiu-jitsu is evolving, too. So if something there that you don't feel is good now, you may not feel this, feel that is not good now, you may not feel the same, in the future.
Yeah. And Gary, we might be disagreeing on a few things here. This would be kind of interesting to talk about, which is good. We'll try not to, we're not in the same room today. So there's no matter what, Gary can't choke me or Kimura me or even hit me in the face. So
I'll think about
I'm safe. So I am free to disagree. But we'll get to those topics. I kind of, before we get really started deep into this, all this depends on, I think, all but the knife examples and stuff like that, depends on who you are and who you're grappling with. Those are the two people, and maybe the rules of your gym. And if you're an MMA person and you're grappling with a jiu-jitsu person, it's kind of different than if you're grappling with another MMA person. So just kind of keep in mind, if you're brand new and you're grappling with an experienced person or vice versa, it kind of changes a little bit. If you're two similar skilled people that have several years on the mat, these all change. And also just the personalities, or maybe, somebody's pre-existing injuries might affect this. So it's all like kind of the, treat people how you're going to be treated, kind of treat people how they should be treated. And, like Gary, I know doesn't care at all if I go for his legs. He usually will tap me out with a leg lock if I do. But there are several people with Gary's experience that would rather not have me attack their legs. And that's okay. I know that. And it's going to be an area that affects them maybe long-term in their training. But it's just knowing the people and being respectful to who they are.
That's the key, respectful. That's the key word right there.
There we go. As long as we got the key word under at the start of it,
we're good.
We're good.
Yep. Let's just call the episode. we're done.
We're done. Another couple of things that I thought about saying before we get kind of into the details of what's dirty and what's clean or what's okay and not okay, is your goals while you're on the mat. I think the first goal I don't know if you agree with this, Gary, is safety. You don't want to go to train and end up hurt. So
I say that all the time. I mean, we do want to get better, and that might be your first goal. But where Byron says safety, you can't get better if you're not on the mat, and you're not going to be on the mat if you're hurt all the time. Safety will keep you on the mat and will allow you to get better. I agree with that.
Yeah, and then like the second goal, like you just mentioned, is to learn jiu-jitsu. That's a big goal. I think it might be tied with the next one of having fun. I don't know how that switches. Maybe if a tournament's coming up and you're really amped up and ready to go, learning BJJ is full steam ahead. Very important. Or maybe if you're just more casual training and trying to find an enjoyable exercise, fun might kind of get ahead of that. But just kind of think about all these things, safety, and also for an older practitioner or maybe one who's a little bit banged up, safety is not just a little bit ahead of learning jiu-jitsu. It's like on the top of learning jiu-jitsu. If I get hurt and I can't go to work, that's a big deal. If you need, if you're going to use your body at work and you need to keep it injury-free, safety is a higher priority than a lot of people. And so kind of keep these in mind. Safety, learning BJJ, having fun. A lot of these dirtier tricks kind of take some of the fun out of jiu-jitsu if they're getting done on you.
Yeah.
So just heads up.
And like Byron said earlier, you got to know, as you get to know the person too, and know the people in your school, and you're going to know that type of person. Some people just do jiu-jitsu for fun. They don't roll very hard. They just like to just flow and learn a little bit. Some people, like Byron said, are MMA fighters. They need to, get smashed, get put in the worst positions, find a way out. And some people are ultra competitive. They're trying to win the Pan Ams. So, it's going to help you too, knowing as you get to know the people, as you get to know people in your gym, it's going to help you to know what you can do, because everybody's not going to be the same. But we're all unique individuals, and we all have different ideas and ideals, and where we're trying to go in our life. So it's going to some of this stuff's going to be a little, might be not cool for somebody, may be okay for another person.
Yeah, and last thing before we get kind of started here. It's a rough sport. It's a rough martial art. It would be hard to do this and constantly be comfortable. So keep in mind, somebody could be doing all the things that make them a nice grappler, and you're still going to be experiencing some discomfort. They could stay, nice and clean in not even in the gray areas, but in the white areas. And being very polite, and still going to be rough. I mean, jiu-jitsu is a rough thing. If you haven't figured that out by now, I welcome you to the mats for your first time to roll, even with a nice person. It's going to be a rough experience several times a day, really. So
yes,
just keep that in mind. That this is, you're signed up, you're doing something that is a fairly rough activity, but that's kind of where we get into maybe the techniques, some of the things that people do that are not just rough, but kind of messed up sometimes. Gary, what do you have in mind for the first technique we could talk about?
Well, one that, I think about sometimes is somebody's got my back. They're trying to rear naked choke me, and, my chin's tucked, which, is what you want to do. And I ended up getting, like, rear naked teeth cross-faced. And, I felt like I've actually had my top tooth go through my lip, from this position before. And it's kind of a rough position. But, in my friendly role, I may not be totally happy with it. But then we go back to, MMA. You see this used all the time in MMA. It's a tough one. I don't know necessarily. I'm not happy when somebody does it to me, but I'm not going to say, hey, don't do it. I'm just going to, keep rolling and try to get out of that position. But, I am wary of, are my teeth going to fall out, or I need better tap before my teeth get pushed back.
Absolutely, Gary. I wear a mouthpiece, which helps a little bit of this, but really from that back position with both arms, if you think about sitting on in a row exercise, how much you could pull back, that's quite a bit of weight. And that's the kind of power you're getting in on that, on their jaw, on their teeth.
I saw you doing the seated row in the gym the other day with 22 pounds. So, yeah, lot of force.
That 22 pounds right on the jaw.
Yeah.
It's rather
No,
annoying.
but like Byron said, you can put some serious pressure right there on his jaw, on his teeth.
So for myself, I think this could also be compared to a choke that could turn into like a bit of a crank. A lot of my arm guillotines, I'll ask, hey, was that more of a choke or a neck crank? And I'm not just asking to be like, to try to... I'm asking that question to try to make my arm guillotine better because I don't want the neck crank.
Yeah,
I want the choke.
I'm the same way.
So,
but do you consider the crank a cheap move? Because I really don't. When somebody cranks me, it's I know that person probably wants it to be a clean move, but a lot of times we're changing angles, we're getting our hands in there, and we may have been a reason by defending that it has become a little bit of a crank. But I've never considered it too cheap. I did earlier in my career, but as I've trained, I don't think of it as much as cheap anymore.
If it's from a choking position where that like the arm and guillotine, where it's a legitimate choke, but really I feel like it's a lot of times how they defend it or how I defend it, what leads to me either getting neck cranked or choked. But this is a little different. This is putting your kind of your forearm on their teeth or on their jaw and really pulling back hard against that and getting a lot of leverage on their jaw, which could... I don't know if that could dislocate the jaw, but it hurts like crazy.
I've actually
put your
seen
teeth
the
through
jaw
your lip.
get dislocated.
Yeah. So it's something definitely to tap to if you're there. It's something that I personally don't do. If kind of looking at the different things, if someone's training for MMA, this is totally legal. Expect if you're keeping your chin down low, that's not enough of a defense. Plus you're getting hit, but getting that pressure on the face is going to be intense. And that might be to kind of draw you to lift your chin up. And people will do that. They'll say, choke me better than that. I don't want to get caught with that pressure on my jaw or my teeth. Yeah. But
I'll just tap.
Yeah. But how long has it been since you've tapped to that, Gary?
Never.
See?
I may have early in my career.
Yeah.
I mean, but, I hear I say I'll tap, but, sometimes when I'm in I'm going to tap to a good choke. It's I don't have a choice.
Yeah.
I'm going to tap to a good arm bar. I don't have a choice. But if I'm getting cranked or, my jaws are getting smashed, like it hurts, but it's not going to put me to sleep. And I don't know. I think I can it's more of a pain tap. I can take the pain tap a lot more than I can take, a pain that's not going to rip my arm off.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I've never tapped to it. I've had people do it. I've never been happy when somebody's done it to me, and I can say I've never done it to anybody, and I don't think I would.
Yeah, it's I think it definitely kind of from the gray area, a little bit more of the wrong thing to do to try to do that unless it's allowed and somebody's trying to get ready for a competition. And this is something that they should kind of get ready for because that's kind of eye-opening to think you're defending a choke and then suddenly having to tap. I mean, ultimately, Gary, if somebody was on your back, stayed on your back, and applied that pressure, and it kept increasing, I would imagine you would have to tap from that, or risk damage to your jaw, or get all your teeth punched through your lip or something. So I think the reason why, and I don't know if I've tapped this, I probably have, I don't recall, but typically people who are better or they want the choke. It's funner to do the choke.
Yeah,
it's more of a satisfying thing to finish with a clean choke. So if in your training, kind of realize that it's there. Obviously, as a defensive thing, you don't want people to be able to crank on you, and maybe just ask feel it's like as a training thing, but don't look for that to be a go-to thing. It's far better to get that choke. It's far better to actually finish the person, and nobody gets mad when they get choked. Hopefully, they should. We'll talk about that a little bit later, I think, but it's just getting tapped versus getting tapped from your jaw getting cranked on. But it's definitely there, and I think people should be aware of it. But I don't do it. Gary doesn't do it, and neither of us are really happy when somebody tries it.
Yeah. But, we kind of got a little message here from one of our listeners in talking about, when do you let go a choke attempt? If it's not progressing and you're basically just working your friend, then he says maybe it's okay if it allows you to improve on your position. Let's kind of go to that real quick. We're talking about chokes. So let's say you're going for your arm and guillotine. And I know we've added cranks in here a little bit too, but I'm that guy that I don't know if I necessarily want to let it go. you think about how many times I put a choke on, and it may not be working right off the bat. So I try to adjust my angle or adjust my hands or get the elbow up higher, high elbow guillotine. And I'm adjusting to make it hit. I mean, there's so many times where, I may not have had it right, and I have to adjust my hips or something, and then it hits. And so that's why I don't know if I really want to let it go.
Yeah, I feel for my teammates sometimes when I have a kind of a not that good of a choke and I'm really working on it, and it ends up being like a minute and a half of me trying to choke them, and I know it's been uncomfortable the whole time, and I haven't gotten anywhere. A lot of times, as a teammate, I'll say, hey, man, it was ever close because I'm sorry, I thought I was going to get that, and we'll just keep rolling. But in a more competitive aspect, if it's somebody who gives me a better match, I'll try to use that position, that choke, or that something, that the technique I'm trying to finish, and I was kind of like mentally say, okay, what am I going to do next? Because they're kind of stuck here. They're toughing this out. I'm not getting this very cleanly. And I look to transition. I don't just let go and say, oh, dang.
Yeah,
but
yep, that's the key.
To finish the whole thing and just like, he's stuck here, I'm going to make this miserable for the next, remainder of the round, isn't really that good of an idea for me, for my training purposes. But if I could continually, like in a choke specifically, I want it to constantly be getting a little bit tighter, a little bit more pressure. And when I lose that and it's kind of stalemated, or when I start to lose pressure or lose that ground, I'll consider abandoning it and look for a transition before it's completely gone. And I think that's just smart.
Yep, I guess I didn't read it right because I'm reading it again. It says, if it's not progressing. And I'm sorry, I kind of missed that the first time. I just thought, somebody wasn't trying to progress it. So, I'm going to try to progress it, try to, change my angle or whatever to make it, bona fide choke. But if it's not hitting, then like Byron said, I'm not just going to let it go. I'm already trying to set up the next move or where I'm going to go next. But I'm not going to hold somebody in a position that it's not progressing, that it's not even close. But then after the round's over, sometimes you don't really know if your choke was close because, we all become good actors. We learn not to show any pain, to hopefully somebody will let you out. And, a lot of times after the round's over, I'll be like, hey, was that even close? I thought I had it, but you weren't gurgling or moving or anything. And I just like to know just to see if I was close or not, if there's something I need to work on.
Yeah. It's having that quick conversation after the roll. And, hey, was that close? No, but it kind of hurt my face. That's the time they say, I'm sorry, man. I thought I was a lot closer than that. I do feel bad. And for people, when I have a choke I think is good and I'm just working on it and it's nowhere, but it's hurting them. Or the exact opposite. When someone's working a choke on me for a long time and I'm like, I'm not going to tap from this choke because it's not actually going to choke me, but this is terrible. I want to get out of here and I'm not being able to. So just kind of keep in mind what we said at the beginning. Is the fun coming out of this thing, or is the person training for serious reasons? Make them get out, but just kind of keep in mind that. And definitely a gray area, holding something and trying to finish it at all costs. And that can be part of your game, and that's perfectly fine. If I know, Gary's going to go to mount and go to an arm-in guillotine, which he does very well to me, and it's close, I don't expect him to quit that. If it takes them, 10 seconds or 30 or 40, whatever, it won't take that long. But just because it's not quite as fast as it usually is, I expect him to keep going and keep adding pressure until I tap. And that's just part of jiu-jitsu. So how about this, Gary? Knee on belly. And your thoughts on when it's perfectly fine, and who would you not do, if anybody, knee on belly to? And how would you do it?
Well, first of all, I think knee on belly is very fine. It's a position, but I would not use a knee on belly against somebody I'm a lot heavier than, kids. To be honest, I don't even think I'd use them on women. Just while I'm training, I don't know. That's just me, but I think knee on belly is a great position, but I'm not going to put my knee on some kid's belly or somebody outweigh by 100 pounds, which would have to be a kid. If I outweigh you by 100 pounds,
Gary, I pretty much do knee on belly to anybody who I'm rolling with, and I think it's a good time for knee on belly. I don't do this as a standard in my when I'm working on. But I do knee and belly quite a bit. But I think I do it a little bit differently.
Yeah, I keep the when I go knee on belly, I keep pressure off really when I'm just training with you. I try not to just kill you with the pressure.
Yeah, some people will put that knee on the ribs. I don't like that at all, and I don't do that to anybody. But I don't mind putting it. Just imagine squatting there in that position. You could put zero pressure on somebody just because you could hold it with a squat with nobody there to lean on. And so you could add 10 pounds or add 50 or whatever. And so it's really something you can control. And you just try to put an appropriate amount of pressure by judging their, what they're doing and how they're reacting to this. And I'll knee on belly basically anybody I roll with, and I just won't smash them. Part of the knee on belly is to get them to react because it's uncomfortable sometimes, and that's okay. But just to do it, knee on belly on a new person who can't escape for 4 minutes is not cool. Doing it for 30 seconds as I transition to mount, or maybe switch around for an arm bar, whatever. That's fine, and definitely don't want to injure anybody's ribs doing knee on ribs or any of that sort of thing. So I think knee on belly is cool. It's fine.
Yep. I got no problem with that. Byron, what do you think about twisting somebody's fingers? Grabbing a finger or two and twisting them to get out of a position.
Okay, not only twisting the fingers, but anytime somebody grabs like two of my fingers, I'll tell them. Like if somebody, I'm rolling with somebody and they're a little clumsy and they knee me in the head, or let's say they put their knee on my ribs, I'm not going to say a word. If they get my back and they try to choke me with my jaw down and try to crush my teeth, I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to roll, maybe roll a bit harder. If somebody grabs my fingers, I say, hey, stop. You're going to break my fingers if we do this. And sometimes it seems a little surprising, especially because nobody who's grappled for more than a few months does this anymore. But obviously they're new, and they're like, why? Because you can't grab people's fingers in the UFC. They just break. And I don't want my fingers broken in here rolling with you or anybody else. Just stop, grab my fingers. It's pretty simple. And a lot of times when fingers are grabbed, they're not, especially by those people that do it, new people, they're not thinking about it. They're just trying to survive. Yep. And so to pause everything and to say, stop, you have to let go of my fingers. You can grab my hand. Try to get this. This is better. You have 3 of those fingers. But those bones in your fingers are so small, and they do break. And I don't want to have a broken hand or broken fingers. It would affect me going to work. I couldn't go to work. So I stopped the match, and I say, hey, don't grab my finger. And I explain to them why if they have a question, or maybe I'll explain to them afterwards. But it's a match stopper for me because I can't fight out of that. I can't. There's nothing I could do to stop them from breaking my finger. I would say normally. Maybe positional-wise, there's some opportunities, but I need to have them stop doing that immediately for my own safety. And that's something somebody with no experience can do to anybody, is grab their finger. It really doesn't take much, especially when you're not going super hard against them.
Yeah, and that's the key. When you do feel something like that can really injure somebody or put somebody out, or out of their job too, let them know about it. And because a lot of times, like Aaron said, people do not know why. They're normally a newer person because twisting the fingers is right off the bat is something you learn to be careful with, or not to do. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's just a big safety thing, which is one of the biggest thing. I want to remain safe, and they break. So not cool. And if you look at anybody who's any good at jiu-jitsu, they don't grab fingers. I mean, you really can't do it. So it doesn't really matter. So how about just excessive smashing of somebody? Let's start with somebody who's kind of new, and then also want to hear about somebody who's actually pretty good and just getting kind of smashed and controlled. What do you think, Gary?
I have no problem with excessive pressure, but you do want to be careful with the new guy. Our goal is to have the new person stick around, be here for a long time. And it's not going to be fun if you're just trying to tap the new guy out with pressure. And I know we've all take pride in tapping somebody out with pressure. It's always fun every now and then. But, put yourself in that situation. If you just, under a side mount and just getting smashed for 5 minutes straight, and each and every round turns into that, you're not going to stick around a long time. But, it's kind of like what you're talking about, knee on belly. The pressure is to, make somebody make a mistake. They really want to get out there and they expose an arm, or they expose an appendage that we can take. And that's what it's for. And, I have no problem with that. And I was rolling with somebody the other day, and normally we have kind of flow, submission attempt matches, and this person is heavier than me, and he smashed me, and he worked his his pressure game, and afterwards he's like, hey, sorry for using the pressure. It's like, no, there's no sorry. I like it. There's hey, we've been training a long time. Two guys have been training forever, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. It's just I do not enjoy being on the top or the bottom, giving or receiving the pressure. I'm that guy. I just like to, flow and fire off submission attempts. I'm not the slow, I guess, Python type guy waiting for a mistake to happen. I'm more, let's get at it. But there's nothing at all wrong with that. I think it's awesome. Some of these people who, their pressure is just insane, and they make you make a mistake.
Yeah, Gary, I agree with what you're saying, and I agree with your self-assessment. Gary passes the guard. There's not a ton of pressure in his pass. It's more of a smooth thing. And then once he gets to side control, he's really doing the opposite of what I'm doing, which is very effective for him. He doesn't do a lot of pressure. He's opening up my arms a little bit, and he's attacking almost immediately. When I pass the guard, there's some pressure to my pass, but not necessarily a ton. But when I get to side control, I like to be heavy. I like to put weight on the people and try to get them to open up that way. And it's just two different styles. They're both fine. Gary, I think he has a higher attack rate and probably a better attack rate with his low pressure system, just matching us up to each other compared to who we roll with sometimes. But Gary's, he gets more attacks. Mine are I'm a little slower, a little more deliberate. Maybe I don't know. You're plenty deliberate, I guess. But I'm always impressed by your ability to just isolate a limb and just go for it. When I have to, I have to I feel like I got to control the whole person and pressure and kind of draw it that way. Your lack of pressure, not that you couldn't do it, is amazing. How you could attack without it. So. I'm just impressed by that, and it does make sense that you don't like to do that to people, because I don't see you doing that, but you still tap people out with plenty of chokes and arm bars, man.
Well, normally when Byron and I get together, thunderstorms happen. Low pressure meets high pressure, and it just starts raining.
Oh, I never heard that one. That's pretty good. But I do like the pressure. So the first person, the first few months on the mat, I'm not going to really smash them too bad, unless I think that they'd be interested in feeling that. But after 6 months or so, yeah, you're going to get a little bit of pressure. And if, like Gary said, it's kind of fun to tap someone with pressure. It is kind of fun, especially if they're bigger than you, to have that was a lot of pressure. And they get kind of a deeper understanding that I'm not just smashing them with my weight. I'm really squeezing their ribs together, and then I'm putting weight on top of that. And that's where the pressure is coming from. It's just different than laying on somebody, because I don't weigh that much if I just lay on them. So to get that, I think it's a learning thing to man, that guy, I remember when Renato Tavares put that pressure on me, I thought somebody else was on top of him and people were messing with me. There was so much pressure, and he's such a smaller person, not that much smaller, but he's not a very heavy person. I feel like I'm getting smashed completely, and I was, but it was technique. And I like to try to share a little bit of that experience with people who I think that are ready to just feel it. And if they're a little bit newer, I'll help them get out of the pressure. I'll say, okay, put your arm here, leave some pressure like this, and turn a little bit, and then you could shrimp or whatever it might be. But just to excessively smash somebody for 5 minutes, I've been guilty of that. Well, like with Gary, if I could do it to Gary, I'm going to do that to Gary. It's competitive. He gets out, it's on. He's going to get me with something else. If I can smash him for 5 minutes, I'll do it. That's fine. If it's somebody who's a lower skill level, I'll smash him for a little while and then try to attack, and they'll probably escape or whatever. But it just depends on if it's a competitive match, and if it's somebody who usually gets the better of me, and I'm an opportunity to put that pressure on. That's what I'm going to do, 100%.
Definitely. Byron, what about cross-facing? How do you feel about that?
It kind of needs to happen a few times. Not real hard, not like a little punch with a forearm to the face, but it generally, from my experience with cross-faces, I'm doing something I shouldn't be doing. Like I'm shooting in kind of wrong, or I'm leaving my head out too much in turtle or something like that. And so a couple of good cross-faces it helps me understand why not to do that.
You need to keep that head carried.
Yeah. But to do it with basically like a strike to the head or something like that, that's kind of not cool. But as a teammate, if you're open for the crossface, go ahead and do the crossface. It's a technique. It's a little bit rougher than most. It's probably kind of similar to knee on belly. It's not that fun to experience, but if you've never been knee on bellied and somebody puts their knee on your belly, if somebody cross faces you the first time, it's going to be shocking. But I'm sure people could find ways to cross face me all the time with what I'm doing, but I don't get cross faced that much because I've learned my lessons. And fortunately, you learn pretty quick when it's as comfortable as a crossface. So I'm okay with a crossface. I'm not really fond of the hard, near punching speed of a crossface sometimes, but it's a learning process. And when I do a crossface, it's definitely slower than it could be. It just helps me get where I want to be, and not all I don't know. Not all crossfaces need to be hard. Maybe on somebody who's training for MMA, I crossface a little harder.
Yeah, yeah. And like you said, I'm probably the same way as you. I'm a little softer on it. Most of the time, I'm just turning your head. But, even going back to a crossface and, turning the head, what about, we talk about, some takedowns, you're leading with your head, or let's say I'm passing your guard. A lot of times I'm using my head to, push your head out of the way. I've got my head buried against your head. I do it really soft, just to keep the head one way, so it's hard for them to shrimp a certain way. But I've heard people say that can be cheap there also, pushing with the head.
No, I think that's good. I think you should do that. If you could post with your head, do it. If I can lead with my head, and if I can push you with my head, that's perfectly fine. And it might be a little, I think it's more or less, especially for the new person, it's weird. They're using their head like it's an appendage of their body, and it seems weird. To me, it doesn't hurt that bad. It's just kind of weird to experience if you've not experienced that, and it will be unfortunately a little while until you're able to do that. It's not your hand or your arm or your leg or even your foot. It's your head, and it's unusual to use that as an appendage. But it really, it's got it supported by a neck and on your torso, so why not?
Yeah, and that's jiu-jitsu. I mean, we learn to use basically every appendage we got. It's before you were doing jiu-jitsu, you didn't realize how all these different appendages could be to your advantage.
Yeah.
But it like you said, going back to crossface, it's you need to be hit with these to learn what not to do. I mean, we all want to be the best grapplers, and we need to make sure our head's in the right spot and there's no space.
Something else I do that might be annoying. it not just using my head sometimes, but also like if someone's passing my guard, if I could put my hand on their head and push, I'm doing that. That's yet again part of jiu-jitsu. It's a part of your body. It's not an inappropriate part to push on. I'm pushing on your head. That's what I'm going to do. And also, like a lot of times in mount or in side control, controlling the head is actually a pretty good idea.
Yeah,
it takes away a lot of strength out of the person. Yeah,
it takes away their bridge. I stole that from you. You used to always do that, and it's become a staple of my game just watching you.
Yeah.
Just break down the strength chain, is basically.
Just imagine in side control, you're kind of tight there. If you could take your elbow and just turn their head to where their neck is kind of at an angle a little bit, they could still be facing forward. You could do shoulder pressure, make them face away. But if you could kind of just offline their spine a little bit, they're a lot weaker. Imagine trying to do a squat with your head tilted to the side. It's going to be messed up. You're taking away a lot of strength. You're taking away a lot of mobility by kind of twisting their head a little bit or manipulating their neck. And it's fine. I'm good with it. It's something
Byron, what about smother chokes? Let's say somebody's got a side mount on you. Let's say we're doing no-gi and they have a rash guard and their body, their torso just covers your mouth and nose and just kind of conforms to it. And we could even add the waterboarding part in there if they're sweating really bad and all that sweat's going into your mouth and nose. What do you think about that? I've actually known people who do it kind of like as a submission.
I think it's kind of messed up that Gary and I don't even know the rule to this, if this is an okay thing to do in competition to actually smother somebody's mouth and nose. So I would defer to that. But for myself, I don't try to smother somebody's mouth and nose unless I'm in a bad spot and my hand's free and I could just do it. I've never used my body to do that. But occasionally, if I'm kind of stuck in a weird choke and I'm trying to figure it out and I got to cover my mouth and nose, people will move almost immediately because you're breathing hard. And they let go, and I'll be like, "Hey, man, I had to cheat." I kind of give them like the you basically had me, but I did that. I don't know if it's legal or not. It's not going to hurt anybody, and people will tap to that or kind of get upset. That's why, like when I do it, I kind of give them the like I had nothing else. You had me, man. So kind of they get kind of mad, and then hey, man, you got me, man. I had to do something, and kind of maybe that cooled them down a little bit. I don't know if it's illegal. I would say don't do it, but it's a little different to use your torso, especially if you're a little bit chubbier of a person, kind of to try to do that. I would say probably not a good idea, but being able to have your be able to clear your face is a valid skill that you should kind of keep in mind while you're grappling. Like if somebody covers your mouth and nose with something, being able to clear that's a pretty big deal.
Yeah. Yep.
Do you do it, Gary? Where are you on this issue?
I don't do it. I've had it done once to me. Like you said, it was kind of a overweight person, and his skin and everything conformed to my face, and left no room to breathe, and I kind of got claustrophobic almost. Like I tapped really quick. It was like a claustrophobic tap or something. But I also ended up drinking a half a pound of sweat, in that thing, and I was just like, oh, this is I just had like a sick feeling to my stomach, and I was like, well, I'm not going to the bottom again in this round. I'm just going to stay up top. But I don't know. I've probably went north-south on people and put them in that position without knowing it, but I wouldn't do this to somebody unless it was a fight for dear life. Somebody robbing me or breaking into my house. I'm not going to do it to somebody I'm training with.
All right, Gary. I don't know. I'd be interested to learn the rule on that one and to know how they...
If somebody knows, send us an email at bjjbrick@gmail.com or just post it to our Facebook page.
Or the easy way to do is to download the PDF and type in Smother on the IBJJF rules, and it'll pop right up, I'm sure. And I'm sure there's a rule about it. Yeah. I feel like we should have looked that one up, but I didn't know that one was coming
Control
in.
F.
Control for find. But that's an interesting one, and to me, it's a gray area. I wouldn't do it to somebody who I wasn't friends with, but I wouldn't. That being said, it's not a nice thing to do to somebody. So if it's a new person, I'm not. Some black belt comes in from town, and I'm getting choked, and I could smother. I probably won't. I'll probably just tap. I don't even think that it's kind of maybe cheap if it's not flat out illegal. So I don't want people to think I'm cheap. I don't need them to find that out until after the second or third date.
Hey, this is Byron from the future here. Hopped onto the IBJJF rulebook, Rule 6.3.2. It is a technical foul when an athlete blocks the passage of air to his or her opponent's mouth or nose using his or her hands.
Hey, Byron, how about some like non-techniques? Dirty or I guess rude.
Yeah, we got a few, Gary, but I want to know a couple. I want to know this one from you. What you think about pulling on the forehead to get in your choking arm for the rear naked choke? What do you think about that?
I don't have a problem with that. I just, you're trying to open up the head or open up the neck, and I have no problem with that.
Okay, how about this? Looking at our little logo there with us in the brick, this one feature that's kind of apparent on myself. How about pulling up on the nose to try to get underneath the chin?
I've had people do that to me, and I've never been too happy with it. But I'm not going to do that to my training partners, but I have no problem if somebody does it to me. I'm not going to be too happy about it, but, do what you got to do.
I would say no on the nose, and the forehead thing to me is not a real good technique.
Yeah, it's not good technique. I mean, I want to catch it, maybe in a scramble.
Perfect.
Have a nice clean, and but it's not always that way. And some people are a little more competitive. I'm the same way. I'm not going to. My rear naked choke is horrible, and it's probably because I don't pull on the forehead or pull on the nose or squash your teeth. But maybe I need to work on that more, and maybe I'd have a better one. But to be honest, I don't want to do that to my training partners. I don't want, that's just me. I'm like you. I kind of am a technique snob. I want to have good technique in it. And if I've got to pull on something or, do like a camel clutch, on your head to get that neck open, to me, I felt like I used too much strength, and it wasn't a great move. I mean, if it was life or death, hey, I'm all over that. But when I'm training, I'm trying to be smooth and have good technique.
For me, it's not a good technique because I like the seatbelt grip, and so I have a standard what I'm gonna do from the back, and my back attacks could be better, but I don't use the gi because I try to grapple with the same set of techniques, gi and no gi, because I get about the same amount of time for each. So I don't want to develop a really good bow and arrow and then not be able to use that on my no gi day. So I'm looking for the rear naked choke most of the time, or I'm looking maybe for an arm bar, and to take out my hand that is on the bottom of the seatbelt grip and to put that on their forehead is an opening for them to escape, because I can no longer control the rotation of their torso with that. With my grip change like that. So for me, when somebody pulls on my forehead, I try to escape right away. It's not that hard to escape. It's not as clean of a technique. Like you mentioned, the choke is best found as you're taking their back, as the scramble's ending, as you're getting that position solidified. Look at the good people. They're underneath the neck already. Like as you're thinking, I'm going to get my back taken, they're getting the first hook in, their arm's going under the neck. There's not a big fight for that a lot of times, and the second hook lands, and you're getting choked. So I just think that instead of to focus on pulling the forehead, focus on trying to find underneath the chin before they're even ready to defend it. And it's better than pulling on the forehead. I don't pull on the nose. I think that's rude. I hate to break somebody's nose like that. And being a big nose person, you don't want to live in glass houses and throw rocks. So maybe that's another reason I avoid that one.
Yeah, just because you don't want to throw rocks. I see.
There we go. Don't throw rocks. Well, if you live in a glass house, if you have a big nose, don't crank on people's nose, Gary.
There you go.
So we got some non-techniques to talk about, Gary?
One is you'll see this all the time, the guy who kind of coaches you through submissions or getting out. And it always seems like when I'm about ready to put the submission on that person, they tell me what I did wrong and kind of coaching it.
Does that happen? I know this happens, but probably not to Gary.
I've seen it happen.
It's happened to you, but it hasn't happened, I bet you, in a long time, because the guys you're training with know you know what you're doing, and they don't need to give you any advice. What this happens is, though, really, when the student tries to, is that white belt like near that blue belt, and he's almost got him or her, or that brown belt's close to the black belt or something like that, and they decide to make this even better, here's what you need to do. And really, it's just stupid, because you're trying to talk your way into helping them get a submission that they probably would have got. Yeah, they would have got it on their own. Yeah. So that's rude to do. And usually if they start talking and it's a competitive, it's all different when it's competitive. Like let's say with Gary, I don't get this a lot of times. The white belts aren't telling me how to finish my chokes. It's a non-issue. But when somebody tries to, hey, think about do this instead, to finish your thing, I'm my foot's on the gas pedal, man, and we're going. I don't need to stay there and listen to what you have to say about it. We're grappling, and for have you coach me through this. I'm just gonna move on through the submission or get to the position I wanted or something. Like to me, it's an accelerator of what I was trying to do, and I'm not going to talk. I'm not going to loosen up to have you show me what we're doing. I don't know. That's kind of how I treat that. It hasn't happened in a long time, but and I don't do it. So if I talk to my people I'm rolling with sometimes, quite a bit actually, like Gary passed my guard, nice guard pass. Doesn't mean I'm not fighting super hard after that, but I'm not going to coach him all the way to it. You know what I mean? I don't know. Can you remember the last time somebody coached you through a technique that you were going to get anyway?
I can't remember the last time, but I know it's happened numerous times, and I see it happen all the time.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily just happen to me. I see it constantly. And, that's one thing that's always got me. But, another thing that kind of goes hand in hand with it is, the exhaustion tap. Let's say I'm rolling and I'm just, tired or whatever. But as soon as you get a great position and you're about ready to finish me, it kind of goes hand in hand with the last one. I was like, oh, I'm too tired. We need to stop. And, I've seen that happen. I've had it happen to me. And to be honest, I've probably done it back in my early days, and I hope I don't ever do it anymore, because if I do, I hope you finish the submission on me.
Yeah. I don't know how I feel about that entirely. If you're that tired, you could wait another 10 seconds and you'll probably get tapped out.
Yeah,
But there's no problem with saying I'm done. Like it is, to me, it's the same as tapping out. To say, if we don't have a time limit, or maybe it's 10 minutes and we're in it for 8 right now, and you're quitting if you're tired, it's the same thing. You're quitting, maybe not from a submission, but because you're worn out.
I always get it in my head that it's like, oh man, I don't have anything left. I'm done. And, then I kind of stop and that person gets a position. But as soon as they get a position, then I fight again because I was like, no, I'm not going out like this. I've had it where I've just been broke before and it's like, oh, I just want this to get over with. And I won't let it happen. I just, find some way to keep going.
Yeah. I'm not a fan of quitting in a bad spot. Even when there's a timer, like you're looking at, there's 30 seconds left. Try to get out. That's part of your training. You're trying to get better. You don't need to wait for the 30 seconds to tick away. Yeah, you want to work on your escapes. Do that right now. It's perfect time.
Yeah. Byron and I have crazy rolls, and we go 100% plus, and no time limit. We don't set a clock. We just go.
Brutal.
And then there's times where it's like, okay, I'm ready to quit, and Byron probably says the same thing. But we've kind of got an unwritten rule that if you want to quit to exhaustion, you get to a top position. You get to a good position, and then we'll be like, okay, cool, perfect. And I know I've done that before. It's like I'm on bottom, I'm getting smashed, and I reverse it, and hey, Byron, let's take a break.
Yep.
It was my decision to quit, but I better at least make sure I'm in a position where I'm not robbing him of his submission.
And that kind of goes with who you're training with. We know each other very well. We trained for a long time. If it's a newer person, and some people, you have to kind of, especially the newer guys, get them to roll. Like, I'm too tired. Well, let's just roll, and we'll kind of go at a slower speed. But that doesn't mean you need to try to make them tap out from exhaustion. They've already tapped out before they got started to exhaustion. Give them some positive experience of being tired and working through that. And I don't know. You kind of see it in people's faces when they're getting ready to quit from being tired.
Yeah.
And you could either, depending on who they are, yet again, in MMA, turn it up. You're grappling, they're training for a fight coming up and they're looking tired, turn it up. That's what you're pushing them. If they're just a casual person and they're getting tired, let them recover the card or let them get that sweep and keep it fun and keep it educational. So it just kind of depends on who people are. And maybe they're not just MMA, but a jiu-jitsu competition. People get exhausted doing that. Yeah. And to fight exhausted is an important skill.
Very important skill. Speaking of skills, how about a smelly gi? The guy who doesn't wash his gi. That actually has nothing to do with skills. I don't know why, but I don't know why I said that, but oh well.
Sweaty gi or rash guard or just somebody who's not clean. And this could be, it's from myself, I try to be as clean as I can, which a lot of times will mean I'm showering before I go exercise, and then I'll get home and shower right away. If I got done mowing the lawn, I'm going to shower before I get on the mats. So it's just kind of something that's important to me. I don't know if everybody would do that extent, but...
Byron, let's put it this way. Let's say you haven't trained in 4 days, and you get ready to go train, and you have your sweaty gi still in your bag that you forgot to wash. Would you still show up, or would you just say, and it's only gi night, and they're not rolling no gi? Would you show up with that sweaty gi, or throw it in the dryer to at least dry it off so nobody knows, or would you just say, hey, I'm not coming?
That's I'm fortunate to have more than one gi, but in that situation,
let's just say all your gis for that one.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever showed up to jiu-jitsu with a gi I have not washed.
Yeah,
and I wouldn't
today. I've had times where, back when I trained in the gi all the time, I would, not have a clean gi, and I wouldn't show. I would just take that day off, and I just didn't want to be that guy, and I don't want to risk giving somebody impetigo or any kind of skin infections, and I don't want anybody to smell me. Definitely. I've
had a few semi-awkward conversations with people. Man, your gi is pretty ripe. Are you washing it? And a lot of times they'll say yes, and I don't know if they just are doing a poor job of washing it or they're just trying not to be embarrassed about it or whatever. But sometimes people actually don't know how to care for their gi, and that's, hey, you need to wash it every day. You need to wash it when you get home pretty much, very quickly. You don't want it to sit for a while. It's filthy. and you need to tell them about how to take care of it and clean it. They may not really know. It's kind of that thing. Do I stink? I don't know if I stink. Like you can never tell. But you don't want to be that stinky guy. So take care of your gi, but also kind of letting people know, hey man, I see, everybody rolled 5 rounds and you got to roll twice and nobody wanted to roll with you. I think your gi's a little ripe. Yeah, your gi's ripe, man. You need to take better care of it. People are happy to roll with you. They like you. They just don't like having your sweaty gi all over their face, or your mildew gi or whatever the smell is, but dingy. But yeah, it's not cool.
What about the guy who has ringworm, and puts some tape over the top of it? What do you think about that?
Is this scientifically proven tape to stop ringworm?
We're talking duct tape.
Okay, duct tape does pretty much everything. But I'll just, from how I am, if I have ringworm, I'm not at jiu-jitsu.
Yep.
And that's how basically everybody at the gym I've been at has been for years, and it's been years since I've got it. And I've got it a bunch of times, but not recently, because everybody's like that.
Yep, I've never got it. I don't know if I'm one of those people. I know I've rolled with a lot of people who've had ringworm. That don't tell you, but I know there's one guy I've rolled with. He'd just put tape over it and roll. And for some reason, I don't think I'm, I get it. For some reason, I don't know why, but it all boils down to you got to take good care of your training partners.
Absolutely.
I mean, nobody wants to take time off, but hey, you don't want to give this. You don't want it to run. You don't want the rest of your teammates to get it. You're the one who has it. You're going to have to suffer and take some time off for a little while and, let it heal.
Yeah.
And,
it kind of goes to where, okay, it's ringworm. It's annoying. You got to get some stuff and put it on there. It's a mild itch, and it'll go away in a week or two. It's not life and death, but it's kind of gross, and it'll take away your teammates' time from rolling. So if in Gary's position, if Gary's never had ringworm and somebody comes on the mat that has it, just tell him, hey man, I get ringworm pretty easy. I see you have tape over it. I'm not going to roll with you, and I really think it's a good idea that you just don't roll with anybody because
you shouldn't be rolling.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't be rolling.
If it's your first week, maybe that's not in your position to say. You just don't roll with that person. But anybody who's got a little bit of experience could say, hey man, I get it really easy. And I know other people on the mat do as well, and we're trying to avoid an outbreak. Thanks for showing us that you have ringworm. Unfortunately, just me watching today, and it shouldn't take more than a week or so to heal up, and you'll be good to go, and we'll be happy to have you back. So kind of an awkward conversation that people tend to avoid, but it's one that needs to happen because you get it controlled pretty quickly there and get somebody to get rid of it. And it won't be a problem for anybody. If somebody comes in and infect 4 people in one day, then people have it. And then they're going to not know about it sometimes, and they'll roll an accident. Rolling an accident's different, but that's just unfortunate, if you think you don't have it and you do. But anyway, yeah, that's an interesting
Speaking of unfortunate conversations, awkward conversations, I was rolling with somebody once, and not going to mention names or when it was, but this person wasn't rolling that well. And we're probably 2 or 3 minutes into the roll, and the person looks at me and says, man, my stomach's really been bothering me, all day. I think I had the stomach flu. And that was in the middle of my roll. What do you think about that one there?
And because we're coming up on season where people get sick. If you're sick, don't get on the mat. It's pretty easy. Sorry. We can't train every day. And even the best people in the world are taking sick days when they get sick. There's nothing that you're going to learn today that you can't learn next week or next 2 weeks. Don't infect your teammates. We all have to go to work, and we all like to train when we can. And if you make us sick, we can't train. So it's kind of like an injury that you're inflicting, like biologically. So don't make us miss our mat time because you didn't want to miss yours.
That actually makes it sound worse when you talk about a biological injury.
It is.
But I just remember hearing that, and I just stopped the match right then and there, and it's like, man, I ain't rolling with you. You need to leave. You need to go home.
Yeah.
And I just went right in the bathroom and just washed all my limbs, and it's like that's the last thing I want to get. And like today, I got my flu shot. Our work gives away free flu shots, and that's one thing I always think of. Flu shot. There's a less chance I'll get flu. And then hopefully it'll keep me more time on the mats. I mean, who knows? If I got the flu, I might have to miss a time or two of training, and I don't want to miss training.
That's a good strategy you have there, Gary. I'm due for mine pretty soon.
Why, thank you.
But if you're sick, stay off the mat. It's just being respectful to your teammates. I'm fortunate at the gym I train at, we got a guy who will call you out on it, like during the warm-up. Hey, you sick, man? You sick? You get out of here. I don't want to get sick. And it's kind of like a bit he does, but it does like he's not. His personality is not super rude, but I couldn't do it without feeling like a jerk. I want to talk to them one-on-one. And
Yeah,
say,
that's kind of how I am.
But he's kind of funny about it, and he's serious at the same time. And I've seen him kind of run people out of there with a smile on their face, and like, I know I didn't realize it, but we don't want to get sick. And so I'm just lucky in that respect that he's there a lot of times. But it's just an important thing, and a lot of times this could be just talked about before it's an issue. So if everybody's healthy today, maybe it's a good idea to bring up, hey, it's going around. If you've got it, stay off the mat, and then you don't have to have the conversation anyway.
Yep.
That's a good one, Gary.
True. Yeah.
How about this one, Gary? I would like to see your thoughts on this. If you do a lot of leg locks, and you get a lot of leg locks, if somebody's not wanting to tap, where do you stand on this?
That's a great one right there, because I do run into this sometimes, and personally, I think it's I don't know. I think we have an obligation to tap while we're training with a partner. But I just, I may not have the submission. That's the hard part. You don't really know if you have a submission, if you should tap. But I'm the guy, I'm not going to keep going for it. I'm going to let it go. I'm going to slowly increase my pressure. But I've let go of a lot of submissions that I thought if I keep going any farther, somebody's going to get hurt. But sometimes, maybe I think the submission's working, but it's really not. That could be a thing too. But I just can't imagine if I got your arm outstretched, or, I've got a really tough toe hold on, and I start getting a little bit worried if I'm going to hurt the person.
Yeah, and a part of that, in that decision process, I imagine you're evaluating their knowledge of what you're trying to do, actually. And into whether they're going to get out or not.
Yeah, but that's a good one. I hear that all the time. I'm glad you came up with that one. I didn't even think about that, but I've heard so many people what to do if somebody's not tapping, and I just like, hey, the submission doesn't mean that much to me. I just want everybody to be safe. Yeah,
and maybe a conversation afterwards. I thought I was pretty deep on that arm bar, and if they say, yeah, my arm's going to be sore tomorrow, hey, you probably should tap next time.
Yeah.
It's not that big a deal to tap, and we'll keep training. And ultimately, they're going to have to learn this, or they're going to quit. You can't keep getting your joints cranked on and do jiu-jitsu. It doesn't work in the long run. So helping them learn that is something that you could do. Is nice for them. A lot of times when I feel like I did something that should have got a tap, if it's not a choke, I'll mentally say, okay, I'm just going to do chokes, because I could not feel so worried about applying a choke to somebody and not having them tap. And usually it's so rare to put somebody to sleep anymore, like I've done it many times. It's pretty rare to put somebody to sleep. So they tap before they go to sleep, but would they have necessarily tap before they got injured? I don't know. But chokes are a lot more safer on somebody who's kind of a stubborn training partner.
Come on, Byron. You put people to sleep every week. With this podcast.
There you go. There we go, Gary. Nice. I like it, man. That's fun.
Yeah. But no, I got a guy I train with, and he's 46, and I'm a little bit older, and he hasn't been training as long, and he's really kind of macho and doesn't really like to tap, and I let him out of a lot of stuff. But I talk to him all the time, and I was like, I've been through all of this. I'm even older than you. Listen to me. I mean, I'm not just saying this so I can get a tap on you. At our age, we're not going to heal as quick. You need to spend as much time on the mat. And I've been talking to him all this time about, hey, you need to tap. You don't, when you're done, tap. There's nothing wrong with it. And like Byron could put me in an arm bar, and my first line of defense is lock my hands real quick, and then I'm going to try to move to escape from there. That locking your hands is not an escape; it just buys me a second. But as soon as Byron breaks my grip, most of the time I'm just tapping right at that point. He hasn't even put pressure on me yet. I know, unless his legs were loose, I got no chance of getting out. So when I know I'm done, I just tap. It's not worth it.
Yep. And I've got a couple of teammates whose arms are actually kind of flexible, and I don't like to armbar them because it's kind of scary. They wait way too long for me to be comfortable with that, and I just transition to something else. Like I said, no submission is worth injuring somebody, especially in training.
Yeah.
And I would add in lower level competition, like this isn't the world here, and that goes more towards the person who's getting attacked. Like just it's not that big a deal. Just tap. So what? You lost. You don't want to get injured. Your safety is more important than winning a match that's not on the world stage, I would say.
Yeah. Yep. Definitely true. I think that was a lot of good information there. I think we talked about a bunch of stuff today, and I don't know if we said if anything's really good or bad. We kind of gave our opinions on it, and it seems like most of them we agreed with. We had a couple little differences, but it's just a great discussion. Great topic of and everybody's gonna think a little bit different. We're gonna get a lot of different opinions based on who you talk to.
Yeah, Gary, you got one more. We actually have several more, but I want to do one more with you because I think it's a big one. Somebody who gets mad. Somebody who gets mad at getting tapped. They get up and they might yell something, or they might get like upset with somebody because they got caught in a submission. What do you think about that?
I really don't see that much. I don't know. Maybe it's the guys I train with.
That's true.
But to be honest, I don't have a problem with that. He got tapped, and he's kind of mad at himself. As long as that person's not going to come and try to totally kill me and put his fingers in my eyes. He's just hey, sometimes maybe it's he's mad. I made a stupid mistake, and I need to learn this. But I don't have an issue with that, I guess. I mean, I think it's, probably not the greatest thing to do at your school if there's a bunch of parents watching and their kids' class go on. I mean, it may not, reflect great to your school as, somebody, observing a class, looking to sign up. But, unless somebody's doing that all the time, I think if it happens all the time, you need to talk to them. But, every now and then, I mean, the person could have just had a bad day and, a lot of stuff going on. But, I guess it depends on how much it's happened.
Yeah. Gary, you're a nicer guy than me, man. I don't, and you just said that your teammates don't really get mad when they get tapped, which I agree. The guys you train with don't get mad when they get tapped. They just, move on and roll some more. But occasionally getting somebody who gets up and is upset that you caught him in a submission, that's not cool. Like I would be embarrassed if that person was on my team and they traveled somewhere and they did that. That's not cool. It's not part of the learning process. If I understand it's a personal thing, some people get mad more easily and more quickly or at a higher level than others. But Juice is going to help you with that. And if you're rolling with me, I'm going to help you with that. And if you're getting mad when I tap you, here comes a bunch more submissions. And we're going to have a lot of experiences getting mad and then calming down and then getting mad again and then calming down. Because it's inappropriate behavior to get mad at somebody who taps you out, in my opinion.
Yeah. Oh, okay. You're saying getting mad at me. I thought they were just mad because they got tapped out, basically, like they're kind of mad at themselves.
Oh, yeah. Getting upset with yourself or getting motivated by that is okay. But even you're upset with yourself, don't show it. Don't. I mean, just like, man, I got to work on that, But I don't know. It's just it's a happy place. Maybe I'm not in reality, Gary, but so I want to get your opinion on that because I knew it'd be interesting.
There's another one I'd like to talk about too. Is because I do this a lot, but I do it, I think, a different way. The talking while rolling. You'll get the person who's talking. Let's say all of a sudden their guard's getting ready to get past, and they'll start talking or just keep talking. I'm the guy, I can talk and still roll 100%. I may be working a move and talking, to you or whatever. And I don't know if people like it. If they don't like it, I don't do it. But I have no problem myself rolling and talking. But I know a lot of times I see people talking. It seems like just to stop the roll or if they're getting ready to go to a bad position, they just want to talk or go back and, recap what they've done and, how they got there.
Yeah. For me, I do. Yeah. I also talk. I'm here to have a good time. Generally, the most common thing I would say is nice. Yeah. Nice pass, nice sweep, nice submission, whatever. But,
I say that all the time.
If Gary sweeps me, I'm going to tell him nice sweep after he's done it, and while I'm defending it as hard as I can to get back up. But another thing that I do that I could see it be annoying is I talk to other people who I'm not rolling with. So if I'm rolling with Bob over here and Gary's rolling with Craig over there, and we're going at it, I look up and Gary's, we're both mounted and in trouble. I'll look over there and say, "Hey, Gary, good luck, man," or something like that. And I could see that could be annoying to the person I'm rolling with. I'm not giving them my 100% attention. I'm not really focused on this. I'm having, kind of clowning around a little bit, but I do it. It's just part of my personality, I guess.
Yeah.
And I'm trying, and I don't have anybody who's reacted poorly with that, but I can see that being a little bit disrespectful sometimes to talk to other people.
It's because you're nice. You're a nice person. You're always helping people out. And then when you do get there, you don't carry on a conversation. You just say, "Hey," real quick, and then you go back to what you're doing. But I'm kind of glad we brought this up, because when you were talking about that, it reminded me of a terrible time I used to have back when I first started. I had this bigger guy. He was kind of a bully, and he'd always, I'd always roll with him just because I was like the toughest challenge. He's a big, strong guy. But, he would just maul me, and he could do whatever he wanted. But one thing that used to drive me crazy is while he was rolling with me, he would just whistle and have like this look on his face, like I'm not even worth his time.
I remember that guy.
While he was rolling. And it would make me mad. It was embarrassing to me, and it would make me mad. And, just thinking about that, it's like, I hope, I never do that to anybody. And if I do see that done, I'm going to, address it, because I just remember how that made me feel. And, it's kind of like I was being demeaned.
Yeah. Yeah. I can see how, if the same Gary, with a year of experience, and if I'm on out and I'm conversing with somebody else, it could be similar to whistling, but at least I'm talking, I'm communicating. He was just whistling to say, "I'm not breathing heavy, I'm perfectly fine. Yeah. You're trying to choke me, and I'm fine." I remember that was pretty bad, but I could see the same type of thing that when I talk to somebody else on the mat that I'm not even rolling with. So I'll try to keep that in mind, and I'll try to watch to see if it's annoying. But it's something I do. I'm there to have fun. I'm there to. And a lot of having fun is being social. And if you're rolling next to me and I see something that you did that was really cool, I might mention that to you. "Hey, good job, Gary." You're not even rolling with me, but I can see how that could be taken the wrong way. And I'll just try to be aware of that and be ready. So, we talked about a lot of stuff. We got more stuff on the list, but I think we've kind of exhausted our, not a lot of time, but it was the time that we thought we'd spend on this today. And we should be moving on. But this has been a fun conversation.
Yeah, it's a fun episode.
Yeah,
I really enjoyed it.
We're going to be trying to do an episode like this where we pick a topic and we kind of break it down the last episode of the month. So if you have a topic you want us to cover and it's worth more than just a little conversation, it might be a little more deep, let us know. Send us an email at bjjbrick@gmail.com, and we'll be happy to consider your topic. We have another one lined up for next month, but after that, I think it's pretty open. And so it's just fun, and we definitely, what you want to hear about, probably other people do as well.
Like Byron said, just send us a message and let us know your thoughts, or if there's something you'd like us to talk about, and we can put it down for future shows. But this has been a fun episode. I kind of like sometimes just talking a little bit more and going a little in depth on stuff.
Yep. It's been fun. If you're anywhere near us and want to have fun on the mats, we are in Wichita, Kansas. Drop us an email or a message on Facebook. We're happy to get some mat time with you. Gary, our good news is about to happen. Our mat tails, my friend.
Thank you, our listeners.
Yeah, a big thank you, and we've kept all the mat tails anonymous, but big thank you for this one. I'm calling this one the Triple Lindy.
This is Mat Tales. We bring you amazing jiu-jitsu stories. The stories might be funny, unfortunate. It could be about an epic fail or an epic win. So sit back, my friend, relax, dry off your sweat from rolling, and enjoy Mat Tales.
To set the scene for you, my friends, I have just lost 50 pounds and quit smoking. I was getting a little bored with my fitness routine and wanting to spice it up. Some friends of mine that do jiu-jitsu in their garage invited me to try it out. One of them is a purple belt and the other a blue belt. Well, I was excited to get some good exercise and even learn something new. I showed up the first day wearing my jogging clothing. and felt a bit out of place looking at them in their gis and colored belts. I was definitely nervous, but one of them let me borrow his extra gi. Well, we warmed up, did some techniques, and started rolling. And you probably know how this goes. Me being the new guy, I'm rolling 120%, trying to survive and trying to swim with these sharks. After rolling for a little while, or just, you might call it getting tapped out several times, my friend's wife showed up. She's a blue belt and about 110 pounds, much smaller than me, and she asked me if I wanted to roll. I got nervous pretty quick, but agreed. I was able to dial my speed back from 120% to just being 100%. And I quickly got caught in a triangle choke where I tapped. Not really understanding what just happened to me, how this woman, much smaller than myself, had just tapped me out very easily, I sat there contemplating what would happen next. What would happen next is she triangled me again. Well, that was my first day of training. The days go by. We trained every Sunday for well over a month, and every Sunday I got caught in multiple triangles by my friend's wife. After several weeks, I showed up to the garage with the attitude, not today. I will not get triangled by her today. Well, my first roll was with my buddy, and he tapped me out about 10 times. Fortunately, none of those were a triangle. A second roll was going to be with her. So I kind of loosened up from the beating I had just received and started to roll. Well, it's no surprise, my friends, that I immediately got locked up into the triangle position. The movements that I did next could best be described by
the triple Lindy.
Is that hard?
That's impossible.
I began to flip and twist and contort my body and really flail all over the mat. I jumped from one side of the mat to the other, landing on my back on my feet. It was truly an amazing triple Lindy. But who am I kidding? These were not a beautiful assortment of techniques. I was just flailing on the mats, and eventually my heel struck the face of my friend. I sat there confused and tired and listening to a string of obscenities. Once I gathered myself, I looked at my friend laying on the mat. I had kicked him in the forehead, split his eyebrow open. He bled all over his gi, and he was laying there in agony. I apologized as much as I could for my movements. I didn't know what I was doing. I was just trying to escape, and it was an accidental foot to the face. I'm so sorry. To make matters worse, he had a competition next weekend. With the stitches he was going to get, he was not going to be able to compete. Also, his brand new gi was covered in blood. I went home pretty defeated, feeling bad for what I had done. A few days later, I got a text from my friend saying that he was okay and I was welcome back at the garage. A lot happened that day as I reflect, but one of the things was not a triangle choke.
This has been Mat Tales. Some of the names and places may have changed. We may in fact have taken some creative liberties with the story. In order to keep Mat Tales going, we need more tales. Tales from listeners like you. Send your tales to bjjbrick@gmail.com. We look forward to hearing your amazing stories.
All right. Thanks again for the Matt Tales. We're always looking for more, and we need people like you to recognize when something crazy's happened to them, type it up, and send it our way, and we'll be happy to try to incorporate that into a similar story format as the Triple Lindy was today. I mean, I could just imagine him trying to escape that triangle, flipping and turning and doing all this stuff. Pretty crazy.
I think we've all been there, especially when we first started. I think I remember trying to escape triangles and just going crazy. I guess I got lucky, though. I never hit somebody and caused them to get stitches.
Yeah. And the Triple Lindy, an old movie, I guess not that old, but Back to School with Rodney Dangerfield. He's up on like the high dive and he jumps from another one to the other high dive and back and forth. He's doing flips and doing all this crazy stuff. And actually, Gary, I'll put a link to that in the show notes, but I'll also put a little breakdown of that at the end of the show and just an audio breakdown. But I do recommend everybody, you don't know what the Triple Lindy is, go see the little clip there. And then when you see
go watch the movie.
Yeah,
go watch the movie too.
It's a 1980s classic, kind of a weird comedy. Movie. Yeah. But somebody, maybe a good technique to call like the spaz move, or when you're rolling around and you have no control over what you're doing, is a Lindy. Yeah, the Triple Lindy. There you go. Yeah.
Depending on how many times you invert. If you invert once, it's a single Lindy. Twice, it's a double Lindy.
So there we go.
Lindy. Yeah.
We're starting that off here, and happy to witness a few Lindies, and hopefully nobody gets hurt.
Yep. Speaking of videos of Lindy's, definitely check out our YouTube page. We're on social media. Check us out on YouTube. Facebook is our biggest one where we're at all the time. We're on Twitter. We're on Reddit. We're on Instagram. So definitely check it out and tell your friends about it.
Yep, and I want to urge everybody one more time to check out the new Patreon option, 50 cents per episode. If you think it's been worth that, we'd appreciate your support and helping us do more things. Spend the time to do Matt Tales. That takes a lot more time than it does to do an interview and do that sort of thing, and really supporting us and what we're doing. The 50 cent option, you'll still get a geek patch. It'll just take a little bit of a while to get there, but we definitely look forward to helping, to getting some help and some support from you guys there. And next week, Gary, we've got an interview with Hope Uzgadaki. We've interviewed her husband, and we're happy to get her on. She has a great story to share, multiple-time world champion, and one of them was at white belt. And sometimes people think a white belt world champion, what's that mean? But really, it's somebody who got really good at jiu-jitsu really quick compared to everybody else. And that's just great to hear how she tells you the techniques she was using and how she did it and what she was trained in and all this stuff. So it's really cool to see what it takes even at that level. And it was a while ago when she was a white belt, but what she went through and what she did to achieve that. So that's going to be a great interview. I think everyone will be able to learn something from this.
Yeah, so definitely make sure you tune in next week. Like I said earlier, get on our email list. That way you'll never miss an episode.
All right, and stay tuned for the breakdown of the Triple Lindy. And stay sweaty, my friends.
And don't forget to shower.
Thank you for listening. I hope you find the time today to roll. After all, the best way to get better at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is to do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
All right, my friends, we are going to do a audio breakdown of the video from Back to School, the Triple Lindy. This is a Rodney Dangerfield movie from 1986, and we start the scene with Rodney Dangerfield running out by the pool in his diving gear. He looks a bit ridiculous. He has shorts on, not the typical Speedo. He's also wearing a tank top and a bathrobe, it appears, but he comes running out to the cheers of the crowd. Now, this movie has Rodney Dangerfield, a man in his probably early 60s, playing a college freshman and getting to experience all the craziness of college life, but as a freshman with his worldly experience. And he is adored by most of the students. Our pudgy hero here takes off his bathrobe and throws it to the side as he approaches the diving boards.
The Triple Lindy. There will be an additional springboard installed for Melon's dive. The Triple Lindy.
Is that hard?
That's impossible.
It takes him a while to climb up to the top of the highest diving board, which is a platform. Climb to the top of the highest board, where he begins to warm up. He stretches like you would do in the morning with your arms above your head, kind of yawns, and then makes the fart noise with his hand in his armpits. He carefully approaches the end of the diving board, puts his thumb in his mouth, and holds it out to check the wind. A very precise measurement here. Stands on point with his hands up in the air, belly poking out, and starts his dive. He jumps high off the platform, tucking the knees and landing on the springboard below. He jumps off that springboard, heads to his right, does a full flip, and lands on the springboard next to him. Jumps off that springboard and lands back up on the original springboard, which was the second board he had landed on. After doing a flip, does a flip off that board and lands again on that board. And he concludes his dive with a double front flip and very little splash as he enters the water. The crowd goes wild. Rodney emerges from the water and pumps his fist in the air in victory. He is met with hugs and admiration from his teammates as he has truly pulled off the triple Lindy.
That was great.
Oh, you were great. That was incredible. I guess there's nothing you can't do. I've got the results of your exams right here.
Do I want to hear them?
You passed all D's and an A.
Who gave me the A?
I did.
I would like to